We have
Do it.
here John Doherty, who is a serial entrepreneur and founder of Credo and EditorNinja, where he's helped thousands of companies hire outside providers and get work done. Before that, he was the in-house growth leader for two of Zillow's nationwide rental brands and worked for digital marketing agency Distilled in New York City. He's based in Denver, Colorado, with his wife, daughter, and dog. About Credo and EditorNinja, Credo helps companies who are looking for new marketing agencies save time meeting and interviewing those agencies. EditorNinja provides flat rate copy editing and proofreading services to content teams and agencies. We're actually pretty excited about giving EditorNinja a test run ourselves at ClearScope. So I highly recommend checking out Credo, EditorNinja if you're looking for some potential outsourced work. And speaking of outsourced work, we'll hand the mic over to John. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Bernard, for the introduction. Super stoked to be here. Bernard, it's always awesome being on Zoom calls with you. We've known each other for quite a number of years now, back to your SEO agency days. So always good to continue the relationships. Hello, everyone. My name is John Doherty. As Bernard said, I'm the founder and CEO of two companies, GetCredo.com and EditorNinja.com, which Bernard just told you about. Before I get into this, I want this free training, this webinar, to be higher energy than most of them that you come to, because most webinars and free trainings are freaking boring. So before we get going, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. If you would, put into the chat here in Zoom where you're dialing in from, URL of the site that you work from, so other people can see who is here. And then also, why did you decide to attend today? What made you sign up to this webinar, to come on, to spend your valuable time to learn what I have to say? So if y'all would put it in. So we got Bernard from Austin, Texas at clearscope.io. Bernard, I assume you're here because you're hosting, but that's totally fine. Bernard is kind of an SEO OG. We were talking right before we came on live, and he told me that he mentioned webmaster tools. I'm like, man, you've been around as long as I have, because it's been called Search Console for what? 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Maybe not quite that long, but like it's been a while. So we've got Aditi. He is in Chicagoland. I assume that's Chicago, Illinois area, at Ship.Cars, building new marketing team at a startup. Aditi, good to see you here. We have Isaac from Ottawa, Canada, SEOnorth.ca, follows me on Twitter and uses ClearScope. Hello, Isaac. We got Sherry from Golden, Colorado, just west of me. I'm in Denver, from hitsubscribe.com. They provide content for tech companies. Sherry, we should talk. We got Caitlin from Milwaukee, Wisconsin at Fractal. Fractal is a content marketing firm that I've known for quite a while. So awesome. So looks like we've got some agency people. We got some services people. We got Andrea from Fractal. Hello, Andrea. Good to see you here. We got some in-house people. We got Jason from Seattle at Resilio.com. They target tech buyers. He wants to outsource content writing. And we've got Brady in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm assuming, at gunmade.com, which is a firearm blog. So we got a wide stretch of people here, which is awesome. So thank you, everyone, for engaging. I appreciate it. So today I'm going to be jumping into the topic of whether you should hire in-house or outsource your SEO and content work. I'm not going to focus as much on the SEO and content part, though I am going to give some specifics at the end. I'm going to focus a lot more on the decision-making around hiring in-house or outsourcing. Obviously, I run two companies in the outsourcing space, helping companies outsource some of the services that they need. But I build companies. I've been building companies for 6.5 years now, out on my own. Over that, actually, September 2015, so a month longer than 6.5 years. I've also been in-house, as Bernard said, and I hired whole marketing teams there. I've worked agency side. I've been a freelance consultant. So I have a lot of experience in hiring, and I don't even consider myself an SEO anymore. There's probably people on here that follow me on Twitter and other places, probably know me from the SEO world and know me from when I was a professional SEO. I actually say my Twitter bio now used to be an SEO because I'm an entrepreneur. That's what I do. I build companies, I hire teams, and I help people outsource. And just so y'all know, two things. Number one, yes, there will be a recording. And number two, if you have questions as we go, I'm actually going to close the chat here so I'm not distracted by those. Bernard's going to be keeping an eye on the chat. If you have questions, put them in there. Bernard will be keeping a record of them, and I'll answer those there at the end. So let's jump in. So what we're going to be covering today, we're going to cover really 5 things, and then at the end, going to have QA. Number 1 is the real answer to outsourcing, to insourcing versus outsourcing. As I've learned from 6,500 plus digital marketing projects coming through Credo, why I'm qualified to talk about this. We're going to talk about my credentials real quick. We talk about where you're trying to go and what you're trying to accomplish and how to think about it when it comes to hiring. We're talking about 3 roadblocks that keep you from doing it right. We're going to dispel 3 common myths. I'm going to give you some examples of real projects that I've seen coming through, my companies. And then number 5, we're going to talk about how to do it better moving forward. So as I said, as Bernard said as well, I'm John. I'm a serial entrepreneur based in Denver, Colorado, with my wife. That's Courtney, my wife right there. That's when we were in Madeira, Portugal, on our baby moon back in 2019. We also have an almost 3-year-old. She turns 3 on Monday. Her name is Tatum. So she's the light of our life. And we have a very large Black Lab Great Dane mix named Butterbean. So I run 2 productized service companies, Credo and EditorNinja. We've helped 6,500 plus companies at Credo since 2015 as they've been looking to outsource their marketing. We've generated over $2.5 billion in digital marketing leads in those 6.5 years. So I know what I'm doing. And EditorNinja copy edit 6 figures of words per month right now for in-house teams and agencies that are producing content for their clients and have trouble staffing up on the editing side. So that's a fairly new venture, but it's scaling fast and I'm super excited about it. So I'm excited to talk with you today about this topic because I've learned so much over my career about hiring in-house and outsourcing. I've hired over 40 people in my career. My company's helped hundreds of companies hire a digital agency. I've worked with over 250 digital agencies. I've hired 15 plus freelancers and agencies in my companies. Both of them run mainly off of contractors. I have a few W-2s at Credo, but none of us are full-time yet at EditorNinja, but I'm spending a lot more of my time there. But I've got 1099 contractors that I'm hiring. I've been hired as a consultant when I was getting Credo off the ground, did 500,000 plus in revenue in 2.5 years as an SEO consultant. So I've sold a lot of work. I've also been fired as a consultant just once, but it happened. I fired freelancers, agencies, and full-time employees. So today what I want to do is I want to teach you what I have learned about insourcing versus outsourcing, the good, the bad, the challenges, etc. Everything that I have learned in the School of Hard Knocks so that you can avoid repeating those moving forward. So let's kind of zoom out. Why are we even here? So you're here because you're trying to get somewhere. You're trying to achieve a goal, which is a sane business, more time, more revenue, more time to focus on the things that matter, right? Get out of doing the individual contributor stuff and really focus on the strategy. Maybe you're working a ton of hours. There's just a ton going on. And so you're trying to get up there to the top of the mountain, right? That's your ultimate goal. Let's call that hiring, right? I should put an arrow there that said hiring. That's where you're trying to go. But the problem is that there's a river between us and there, right? That river is hiring. We need to get across that river to then make that climb to get to where we're trying to go. But we can't reach the mountaintop unless we cross that river. So today I'm going to talk with you about how we cross that river, mistakes people make while they're trying to do it, and then how they do it well. So first, I want to jump into a reality check. We're facing some major headwinds in business right now around hiring. Things have shifted substantially in the last 8 to 12 months. I found some stats that say in 2022 projects that experts project that that 2022 is going to see the highest raises to employees since 2008. Average was 3.4% is what I saw. Usually cost of living average has been average raises have been like 2.5 to 3%. So it's 0.5% higher than that. And it's the highest one since 2008. Pay raises are also not going to match inflation, which means we're going to see turnover, which means more people are going to be looking for a new job where they can get a lockstep change in compensation. They're not happy with that 3.5% raise. They're looking for a 10% raise, a 15% raise, right? Because they do want to keep up with inflation and more. And just everything is getting more expensive, right? Services are getting more expensive. People are getting more expensive. Lifestyles are getting more expensive. My milk has gotten more expensive, right? Like things are changing. And so like it's a fast changing world right now. But and so that means it's harder to hire. There's more noise out there, right? I recently posted a gig, a position that we're trying to hire for at Credo. I got like 65 to 70 applicants, and there are maybe 3 that are good. Usually I'd have like 20. So like just hiring good people has also gotten harder, right? You're gonna have to pay more for people that aren't as good. Not fun, but there are some bright spots. And And a main one is that I found recently via a poll that I ran on Twitter, 62.5% of marketing agencies have not raised their rates recently. So while it might be more expensive to hire in-house people and to hire, 37.5% of marketing agencies, almost 2/3 have not raised their rates. So it hasn't gotten more expensive to hire them, which is awesome. So let's talk about some challenges, 3 challenges to making the decision about whether you insource, whether you outsource. First of all, a challenge that a lot of companies that I see that are thinking through this run into is that they are unclear on the team that they need to hire. And more than that, they don't have a marketing leader in place internally. You need leadership in place tasked with owning the numbers, tasked with the growth of the company. And then after you make that hire, it's unclear who to hire next for what role. And a lot of companies I see, especially smaller companies that have kind of gotten to 25, 30 plus employees don't really have this. If you're under that, hiring is an expense instead of a growth lever. There's a reason why companies, there are a lot of companies that are huge, right? You look at Uber, you look at Zillow, who I used to work for. They're hiring a ton of people because hiring is a growth lever for them, not an expense. They're not just adding payroll for the sake of adding payroll. We see what happens when companies do that fast. The one-click checkout startup that just folded recently that was burning $10 million a month on $600,000 a year of revenue. My companies did more revenue than them with literally like 0.5% of their employee headcount, like insane. But for them, it was an expense and the growth didn't come with it. But for a lot of companies, hiring needs to be a growth lever for you. But you can't make a good decision about hiring, and you're not going to be able to leverage the team that you hire and manage it properly without someone responsible for the strategy. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. So real quick example, this is Rob. Rob runs a medical supply company. He's not a marketer. He doesn't have any companies. He's a location-based medical supply company. So he's delivering medical supplies to people. Rob should learn the basics of marketing and understand his business's metrics, right? What a customer is worth, what his goals are, that kind of thing. Then he can hire effectively and hire for the right roles. Or Rob should hire a consultant like a fractional CMO or someone like that to run marketing for him. Rob is obviously making the budgeting decisions and that sort of stuff and keeping them accountable to the growth. So he needs to do that anyways, because he is the business owner. You can't outsource given a crap. But Rob's probably not going to do that. I've talked to so many Robs over the years. He's probably not going to do that. He's going to hire a cheap agency, or he's going to hire his neighbor's son who's interested in computers. I've heard this so many times. Like, I'm not even just going to the crazy, like going to the outliers. Like, this happens all the time. And he's going to wonder why his numbers aren't getting any better. And he's going to fire all of them and say, marketing doesn't work. I don't know, Rob. Challenge number 2, time. So I talked to a lot of companies that need someone in the role yesterday, right? They are hurting. You're crushed for time. And so they rush to hire the first person or agency that seems good without really thinking through whether they insource, whether they outsource. They don't have a good grid for that. And they just rush and they hire someone. They end up spending more time hiring because they rush to the decision, because they hire, it doesn't work. They fire, they hire, it doesn't work, they fire, and it's frustrating. And honestly, at that point, it becomes easier to say, yes, I'm just going to do it myself because it's easier. And this is a total pain in the butt. And then the company doesn't grow. So this is Imani. Imani's a marketing leader at a fast growing SaaS company, right? She came from a big tech company, and she needs to hire quickly so she can stop working 80-hour weeks. And so she can spend more time on strategy. But she doesn't have much of a marketing budget. We're going to talk about costs here in a second. She decides to hire a full-time generalist on her team. So she hires a junior person quickly, kind of a get things done sort of person, right? That we all think that we want, but she doesn't know their metrics and she doesn't know their acquisition costs yet, right? So she doesn't really know where they stand. She hasn't figured out the channels that could work. So this generalist frustrates her and wastes her time. She works more hours than she was before because she's having to correct the stuff that they're not doing well. And then she fires them. And then she's right back to where she was just a few months later. And, a bunch of dollars poorer. Not a good spot to be. And then number 3, the big challenge is cost. A full-time employee, right? Prospect wants 2x what you've budgeted. An agency that you're talking to shows you a huge number that's 2x at minimum what you've budgeted. I see this all the time. Your marketing budget is built off of your revenue, and often it's just yeah, sure, we can spend that amount of money, not the actual cost to acquire a new customer profitably or your fulls. This is not a horse webinar, your goals. Everything ends up, and also everything just ends up being 20% more expensive than you planned, right? That's actually kind of the average that I see. That's what I see in my companies and other people. So keep that in mind as you're building your budgets, right? If it's going to be 10, if you plan to spend 10K a month, expect 12. So this is Roger. This is Roger Federer, actually. I'm not a tennis fan, but thought it was a good example. So Roger's a professional tennis player who travels the world competing. He needs someone to manage his influencer marketing deals. But Roger is known for being cheap. That's not actually a true fact. Let's just say he's known for being cheap. So he posts a role, but he doesn't get quality candidates. He hires someone who is cheap without proper vetting. Right? He hires his friends, neighbors, daughter who, posts things on TikTok, who knows how to dance on TikTok. I don't know. TikTok makes no sense to me. I'm a geriatric millennial. I'm old, so I don't get TikTok. But the person he hires is a nightmare, right? Because they're not experienced. He got them cheap. They mess up deals. They post things at the wrong time, and he has to fire them. Now he has no one. He's wasted 6 months of time. He's not getting the influencer deals. And all this because he wouldn't pay market rates. So not where you want to be. So now that we've covered a few challenges, the common challenges that I see, let's dispel a couple of myths around hiring and around marketing and leading marketing itself. Myth number one is that marketing is best done by the founder and they should hire freelancers as quickly as possible to execute. This one is true to a point if the founder has marketing experience and knowledge. But a lot of times, a lot of businesses, right? A lot of us on this webinar are marketers. And so for us, leading marketing initially is the way to go. And then hiring for things that you are not best at. But for most of the companies in the world, founders are not marketers. So they need to find a marketing leader. They both need to bone up their skills, right? They need to grow their skills, as we talked about with Rob at the start with his medical supply company, but they need a marketing leader in place who's responsible for business and team growth. After, I don't know, 8 people, probably shouldn't be the founder that's responsible for marketing. If they're co-founders, then yeah, one of the co-founders, can be, but if you're a solo founder like I am, not what you want to do. And hiring a bunch of cheap freelancers fast is just going to lead to a bunch of management and a bunch of sub-quality work coming out. So that's something to be aware of. Myth number 2, it doesn't matter. Insourcing versus outsourcing. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Just get people in. What matters is that marketing things are just getting done, right? There's a button to seat, getting it done. Old school way of thinking about hiring. The fact about this is that there is a sequence that makes sense for hiring. And I'm gonna talk you through that here in just a minute. The wrong hire is much more costly in the medium to long run, even short term. You're gonna know pretty quick if you hired the wrong thing. But much more costly in the medium to long term because you have to fire them. You have to hire someone new. You've wasted time and budget. I've heard all the time. I've heard a lot of times at Credo, what's the worst that could go wrong? We're gonna give this person a try. I'm like, well, you're going to waste all that money that you could have put into the right candidate. You're going to end up 3 to 4 to 6 to 12 months down the road. You're not going to have made any progress. So if you're willing to lose those, like, I don't know about you, but like time is the scarcest asset, right? And then money matters as well, especially in a smaller company or bootstrap company, whatever. Or even in a venture, company, venture-backed company that you're trying to get, trying to get to that next round of funding and show growth to keep that valuation going. I don't want to lose those. And what I want to drive home here is that done is not better than perfect in hiring. It's never going to be possible to get to perfect. So it's a little overstated, but done is not better when it comes to hiring. You can do a better job of hiring than just, we got a person in the seat. We got a butt in the seat. And then myth number 3 is that anyone can make it work if they're good enough. If they can't hit the numbers, it just means they need to try harder. I hate this one. And I see this mindset all the time. The truth is that the right type of hire for right now, and that's really what we're concerned about. We're not concerned about 12, 18 months down the road. Who are we going to need to hire then? Are we going to need an agency or whatever? We're concerned about now because we need someone in this role now, in present time. It varies based on your team setup and metrics. And there's no one size fits all. There is no answer. There is no right answer to, do we hire in-house or do we outsource? Just across the board, right? There's no right answer to that. The answer is, when people ask me, do I need to hire in-house or do I need to outsource? I say yes. You're going to do both. The question is, which one are you going to do right now? Which one is right for you right now? So you need to hire the right type of provider and give them the appropriate budget in order to see results. It's not a matter of skills. The most skilled marketer that is in a competitive space that doesn't have budget to compete isn't going to be able to drive the results. That's just fact. So remember this. Remember, we're trying to go to the top over there. We've got this big river in front of us. All the challenges and myths I presented to you, those are the things that we try to do, right? You're trying to go up there to the top. What we need is a bridge. We need a bridge to get us over this river. So what I'm going to present you with today is the bridge. So I want to talk with you about the hiring decision tree that I go through and that I take companies through when they're trying to decide whether they hire in-house or whether they outsource and which one they are ready for. So first off, do you have a marketing leader or founder that is leading marketing? It's a simple yes or no. If you don't, this is what you need first. You need to hire this role first, or you as the founder, as the leader, you need to learn, not even necessarily learn like the tactics and strategies around marketing, but you need to learn how to manage a marketing function, right? So you need to understand, how many visitors are we getting to our site? How many, blog posts are we publishing a month? How many leads does that lead to? How many of those are qualified leads? Or if you're in e-commerce, how many of those are turning into, shopping cart, fills? And then how many of those are converting, right? How much are we spending on marketing? How much are we spending on ads? What's that acquisition cost? You need to know all of these things. I have a whole scorecard built out in Excel that we fill out every single week across the month. And I have a marketing scorecard that I fill out every single week as well by channel, and then break it down completely. So I know how much are we paying for a lead from SEO, in April this year versus April of last year. I know all of that. So then I know how much we can afford to spend. And if we're launching a new marketing channel, I know what we can afford to spend in order for it to still be profitable. Do you understand that? I hope so. If you don't, then you need to get that insight. And if you're not the person to be doing that, you have so much else going on, you need to hire someone first to establish that for you and to establish where you're going. If yes, you do have someone in that role, next up comes, is there a defined marketing budget? And do you understand your acquisition metrics? What I was just talking about. If not, define them, understand them. And then does the hire need to be quick? If yes, like it needs to happen now, you're probably better off outsourcing. You're probably better off finding a consultant, finding a productized service that can help you, that can get going for you quickly, right? I'm talking in the next week or two, help you scale up fast, right? I mean, this is what we do at EditorNinja. This is the whole idea behind EditorNinja, is that I know there are a lot of content teams out there. I have customers on EditorNinja that we've helped them solve, agency customers that we've helped them solve the problem of scaling editing capacity, because they can scale content capacity all day, right? There's all sorts of companies out there that can help you scale capacity, right? The one that I've used in the past is Verblio, right? They do a great job, based here out of Colorado. But I can get going with them in like a week or two. Super fast, and I can get 10, 15, 20,000 words of content a month, no problem, right? Because they're set up to do that. So that problem has been solved. With EditorNinja, we're solving it on the editing side, because companies, agencies that can't scale up the editing side, their challenge is some of them will actually just turn away revenue. So they're not being able to scale capacity means that they have to turn away revenue, or they're sending back content to their clients that hasn't been properly edited. It's not in keeping with the style guide and all of that. So they're producing subpar work, and then they lose the client. Really bad, right? So outsourcing, if you need to get going fast, outsourcing can be great. Or it is likely the answer for you. If it doesn't need to be fast, you can kind of go either way, right? You can do it. You can hire in-house, or you can outsource. I also want to say, if you ultimately want to have someone in-house in this function full-time, like a marketing leader, for example, you need someone in quickly to get you started. They can fill that gap until you hire the full-time person. So it's not an either or. It's a, for now, we're going to get this consultant, this fractional CMO, whoever in place. And then we're going to, while we're looking to hire, a full-time person. And pro tip, you can usually get that person to help you hire your full-time person, because they don't want a full-time job. They're working with multiple clients, right? They're raising their rates as well as they sign on new clients. So they don't want to work with you forever. honestly, when I was consulting, this was exactly my model. I'd come in as basically a fractional director of marketing focused on SEO and inbound. I would work with the teams to define their marketing metrics, to understand their acquisition metrics, to get, some things done, to start seeing traction, start getting their traffic going back in the right direction. And then I would help them hire a full-time person. I would stick around for 2 more months to transition what I was doing as a consultant to them full-time, and then I'd be gone and on to the next client. Very, very possible to do. And very, very common. So there are a few more things to think about, to take into consideration as you're looking to hire and as you're making the decision between insourcing and outsourcing. First off, is the need recurring? Does this need to happen time and time and time again? If so, then you probably should hire in-house. You should at least hire the leadership in-house, right? If it doesn't need to be recurring, it just needs to be a one-time thing, or it's kind of a time box thing, right? Then outsourcing is a great solution for it. So my wife is the director of marketing not marketing. Man, can you imagine 2 like heads of marketing in a household? That'd be crazy. She's the director of design at an education technology startup. And they've recently been working on some new things internally. But it was a time-bound project, right? Building out a new website and doing some other like design work, some brand marketing work, that kind of thing. Didn't make sense for her to hire a full-time like brand marketer internally to do all this stuff, right? She hired a couple of agencies to do this, to do the brand stuff, to do the website build, all of that, to do the copy. They've hired people to do that because they know it's like a 6-month project and doesn't make sense to hire someone full-time. One other thing to say about this is there are some recurring needs that you can absolutely outsource. The main thing to think about is if it's a recurring need, you just have to have a leader in place, someone that's responsible internally for it, because otherwise, because they're not going to an outsourced firm, an agency, or whoever, even if they tell you that they're invested in your success, they're not. I'm sorry, sorry to burst that bubble, and sorry agencies out there that disagree with me, but they're not, because agencies can always go get another client, right? And they're not going to see an upside in your success. Their upside is keeping you around as a client, and maybe expanding your engagement as well, but that only goes to a certain point. You're the one that's going to see all the upside, so you need to be invested in that success. And then another thing to take into consideration is your company culture. Is outsourcing going to work with that or not? So your culture and how you work internally determines whether outsourcing is going to work, and then the outsourced provider that you should hire. So culture determines how you build out your team, who you outsource to, and honestly, the lack of cultural fit is the main reason we see at Credo outsourcing relationships fail. It's not lack of results, it's lack of cultural alignment. For example, and here's what I mean by this, and culture is one of our 3 kind of steps in our vetting process at Credo for marketing providers that we work with: results, professionalism, culture. Can they get results? Can they prove that they get results? Are they professional in how they deal with people? We look at their reporting and that kind of thing to see, is it branded? Is it clear of typos? All that sort of stuff. Are they talking about what the metrics mean and not just presenting a big spreadsheet of data, right, to someone that isn't even a marketer, doesn't even understand what it means, right? That's not helping anybody out. So is it professional? Is it metrics driven? And then also culturally, what we look for is, are they good people? Are they good people to work with, right? Are they nice? Are they professional? That kind of thing. We fire the ones that are not. I have no problem firing bad customers on any business. I have no problem letting them go because it's just not worth it. But when it comes to culture between your company and an agency, it's, do you work in similar ways, right? If you at your company, you need reporting weekly, right? We pull numbers weekly. My executive assistant pulls our numbers weekly, and as a team, we talk about them weekly. But I would not hire an agency to do my marketing who only reports to me monthly, because I need it weekly, right? And vice versa. If you only need it monthly and they want to report weekly, or they want to catch up, once a month, and you need it weekly, that kind of thing. You need to look for this alignment, right? How do you work? How quickly do you need turnaround? How quickly do you need communication? That kind of thing. Those are the things that are going to make or break a relationship. Ultimately, yes, they need to get you the results, or you as an agency, you need to get them results. But everyone also understands, or the right clients understand, that it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. But so that's where culture really comes in. And then ultimately, the results need to be there as well. But this is one that I see people often getting wrong when it comes to hiring, either in-house or externally. It matters so much for both. And I don't know that matters more for one or the other, honestly. Maybe a little bit more for in-house because you're going to be working with them every day. But it still really matters. I've seen a lot of relationships where a company will hire an agency delivers the work, they do a great job, and client doesn't renew the relationship because just their communication was off or something like that. It happens. So you need to poke for that. So both sides need to kind of probe for that. So there are some things that are easier to outsource than others. First of all, as I said, non-recurring tasks or time-bound, shorter term roles. Recurring tasks can also be outsourced to the right provider, right? Ongoing content creation, that kind of thing. There are some things that just don't need a full-time person, right? Like right now, I'm trying to hire a content promotion service that can take the content that I have produced over time and repurpose it into, Instagram posts and social media posts and, shorter form, LinkedIn organic posts, like that kind of thing. I'm looking for, a service that does that. It doesn't need a full-time person. Someone can do that in 10 hours a week, right? Queue it all up on Monday, schedule everything out using one of the myriad of social media scheduling tools, Buffer, like that kind of thing. Doesn't need a full-time person, so I can outsource that. Things, as I said earlier, things that need to be hired for quickly, you can, and you can always use this as a stopgap while hiring full-time if you need a full-time person, right? Hiring a part-time person to get you started can be fantastic, even if ultimately you're going to need a full-time hire. And if you need to scale capacity fast, this is the big one. If you need to scale capacity fast and you have a leader in place and you know your metrics, outsourcing to a service that has it productized is quick. One thing to note about productized services, as someone that runs two of them, productized services might not always be a perfect fit for your process, but they are because we have our way of working. This is how we work in order to make it scalable, right? And it delivers good results to everyone, but it is budget friendly. It's fast to get going. You know what you're going to be charged. And so outsourcing to a productized service can be a great way to do it. Another option there is finding kind of like a white label partner, to do it, whether it's a service or another agency that does the thing. Those are much harder. Those deals are much harder to put together. So finding a productized service is probably going to be the right way to go there. So these are the things, talking specifically now about SEO and content. These are the things that I see you being able to outsource pretty easily. Number one, audits, right? This is time bound. So an audit of your PPC account, audit of your search console, audit of your website, technical audit of your website, super easy because you're basically buying a product. Outreach, right? Outreach to potential partners, PR outreach, that kind of thing. Really easy to hire a consultant for that. That's really easy to outsource. You probably don't need someone full-time in that role. Someone that you can outsource your questions to, right? A consultant, just someone to be like, hey, I need a gut check on this. I need a sense check on this. So you can either have someone on retainer, you can find them on clarity.fm, you can find them on Growth Mentor. Like there's a bunch of places in marketing that you can find experts. You can find the expert on local SEO, right? My buddy Greg Gifford. You can find anyone on there, right? Email marketers, all of that. Google My Business optimization and maintenance if you're a local business. Link building, you can outsource that as well. You can outsource the outreach, you can outsource the content production, etc. Once again, you need to be owning that strategy internally. Design, right? You can outsource to Design Pickle super easily, $495 a month. You can submit as many requests as you want. And they work every day, to turn them back around to you. Ads, landing pages, slide decks, all that sort of stuff. Written content production and editing, right? I already talked about those. Verblio, EditorNinja, etc. Video editing, you can outsource that. There's agencies like Lemonly that can do. I think it's Lemonly that can do that for you. And then as I said, promotion as well. So PR and that sort of stuff. Content promotion, like I was just talking about, Repurpose House, and there are a myriad of others that can do that. Podcasts like content repurposing, that kind of thing. The co-host of with me on my working sessions podcast, James Sowers, runs Castaway, right? That they do podcast repurposing into social media and that kind of thing. I'm going to be taking him for a spin with my own stuff. So you can outsource all this stuff quite easily. Here are the things that you absolutely should not outsource. First of all, responsibility for the metrics. It's your business or it's your full-time job and your role at your full-time job. So you're responsible for those metrics. You cannot outsource responsibility. Business reporting. So outside providers obviously can report to you on their metrics, but the overall business reporting is your responsibility, right? So what you need to do then is you need to make sure that they are giving you the numbers that you need at the right time so that you can make the right decisions for your business. As opposed to being on your heels, you're being proactive. Connection with your audience, right? So outsource providers can write what you want said. But like I was talking to a woman yesterday that she is a business coach for introverted entrepreneurs. Talk about a niche, right? But she does a great job with it. But introverts really want to connect with the right people. And so she's tried to outsource like Instagram, direct message back and forth to her team, but they don't have her tone of voice and that kind of thing. And people literally are like, Susanna, is that you? Doesn't sound like you. And she's like, so like, she needs to teach honestly her VAs to, her tone of voice or give them like scripts to reply to, that kind of thing. If they don't know how to reply, get her to write the reply and they get the template, etc. But, it's still her connecting, she still needs to be connecting with her audience. She can't just like give her Instagram to, a VA and then never look at it herself. She still has to be involved. So do you. You can't outsource caring, right? Giving a crap. I'm trying not to swear on here. So you can't outsource caring, right? You have to be the one that cares so much, that cares the most about your business. And then your brand story and your brand values is one that I didn't put here, but that is one that you can't outsource. You can hire, and I've done this before, you can hire consultants, et cetera, to come in to help you codify that. And that is great to do. I had someone come in a couple of years ago at Credo and help us codify some of our, core values. Like respond, don't react is one of ours. So I'm Irish. I'm not, I don't have an Irish accent. I'm not an Irish citizen. I tried. But my lineage is Irish. I have an Irish temper. I can get mad real fast. I'll admit it. It is something I've worked on my whole life. And I continue to work on, but I know if I am angry, I might react in anger and do something that I don't want to do. So one of our core values is respond, don't react. Take a breath, step away from your computer, close your email, that kind of thing. I actually have a rule for myself that that I basically don't reply to if I check my inbox, check my email, which my EA like mostly manages, and anything that's like crazy or takes up my time, she gets it out of there. But if I look at my starred folder in there and there's something that triggers me, that makes me angry, I step away. I have a rule that I don't reply and I'll reply later. There's nothing that can't wait 12, 24 hours, even if it's an unhappy customer. You're better off taking a little bit longer to reply well, to respond well, than to react. So that's one of ours, for example. And we had someone come in, I paid someone to come in, work with us for a couple of months to codify this into our values at the company and our brand story. I can't outsource that. I can outsource like the writing of it, someone that interviews me and writes up the story. But I can't outsource that. So one thing I do want to make clear here is that ultimately the decision about whether to insource, whether to outsource, what to do at which time, it is personal. There is no right answer. Some people prefer the full-time culture. Others like the flexibility of getting out of an agency or freelancer arrangement. It is, and I see all the time where people hire, an outsource provider, an agency or something, right? Say they're at, I don't know, 50K a month in revenue. And this agency is really good at growing companies from 50 to 150K a month in revenue. Once they hit that 150K though, and they're trying to go to 500K a month, that agency struggles. And so they need to work with a different firm. It happens all the time. Also happens in-house as well. It's way easier to fire an outsourced provider than it is to fire a full-time person. And also there are just some roles that don't need the full-time availability. But also it's hard to build a company culture around part-time workers. I've experienced this myself. I've experienced it firsthand a couple of times now. It's hard to build that company culture. So depending on what you care about the most, that determines whether you hire in-house and whether you outsource. So before I tell you just real quick about a little bit more about Credo and EditorNinja, I want to make it clear that, and just kind of synthesize everything down for you, that when you're thinking about insourcing versus outsourcing, the things to think about are, do you have someone internally that is responsible for it? Do you have either a founder, a co-founder, a VP, a marketing leader of some sort internally? If not, you need to get that first. You need to understand your metrics. You need to understand your marketing metrics, your acquisition metrics. You need to understand some channels that are working, right? If you're early on, then you should probably be figuring those out first. Or, hiring freelancers, et cetera, to, help you kind of figure out those channels and take you from that 0 to 1. and then and then from there, it's based off of time, whether it's recurring, whether you need it fast, those sorts of things. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, as your company grows and as you're trying to, build out the company and build out the culture, it really comes down to what is the culture that you want to have internally, or that your boss wants to have internally if you're not the founder of the company. So this right here is why I think this question never goes away. Do we hire in-house? Do we outsource? It doesn't go away because there's just simply not a right answer. And so every single time that you're going to hire, you need to take yourself through this, these rubrics of how quickly do you need to hire? Is it a recurring task? Is it a full-time job? Are we probably going to outgrow this role, right? Or like whoever we hire, are we going to outgrow them at some point, in which case it makes more sense to outsource, that kind of thing. There's just no kind of clean rubric here, and different companies are going to look at this different ways. So just real quick, the two services that I run that I can help you out with if you're looking to outsource, especially if you're looking to outsource in marketing. With Credo, we specialize in helping companies find the right digital agency fast. Digital marketing, and web development is one we're increasingly kind of pushing into. So if you're looking to hire for an SEO consultant, an SEO agency, PPC agency, a WordPress, development firm, that kind of thing, go to getcredo.com/hire, schedule a call with my team to talk with them about your needs, and we can get you connected up to the right people. If we don't have, if you have a specific need, so you need someone that I helped a company a while ago that they were doing business in Mexico, and they needed help hiring a company that has experience doing marketing gas and oil companies in Mexico. We don't have that in our network, but we do have a premium service called our Agency Finder service where we can help you hire. So this is specifically for agencies. We have other recommendations for people that need teams of freelancers or writing services or something like that. And then EditorNinja, as I said, is my new venture that I've had going for about 1.5 years now, and then really doubled down on it started this year. It's the first flat rate copy editing and proofreading service online. If you know Design Pickle for design, we're the Design Pickle for copy editing. We're called EditorNinja. So we have real MFA editors editing hundreds of thousands of words a month, and we specifically serve agencies and in-house content creation teams. So EditorNinja.com, schedule a demo with me. Would love to chat with you about it. As Bernard said, they're going to be getting on with ClearScope when their new director of marketing comes on. And we're editing content for some of the biggest and best and most well-known SaaS companies in the world right now. So we can help you out as well. So that's it. Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for attending. I hope there are some questions in the chat. If you have questions that have come up, I would love to answer them. And you can also follow me. I misspelled my Twitter, Doherty JF, DOHERTYJF. Same thing on Instagram. That's the best place to reach me. Thank you so much. Bernard, do we have any questions?
John, no questions yet, but I wanted to comment and say that the hiring decision tree was just a very eye-opening slide, and I'm glad that you spent a lot of time there. I think that a lot of people are really too quick to jump the gun when it comes to outsourcing, because you talk with enough agencies and you know that a lot of them are going to promise you all kinds of different pots of gold at the end of the rainbow. And it's very easy to just jump the gun, say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but that's why I'm bringing on this agency to kind of help me think through what I'm going to be doing and why. That said, some agencies are really good at setting you up for success, hand-holding you through that process, but a lot aren't. And if you kind of fall into that trap where you have somebody else setting up the metrics that they think you should be caring about, then you could end up deviating off of a really crappy path, right, to failure. So I would say to start, I have a question. How do you know whether or not the agency relationship or the outsourcing effort is working out, especially as I'm sure you're well aware in SEO, a lot of the effects of SEO implementation happen many moons later. So what are some good red flags for people who are looking to outsource marketing help in terms of talking with or screening providers in the SEO space?
Yeah. So there are two sides to it, as you just alluded to. There is the upfront screening, finding the right provider to hire.
Mhm.
And then there is the, are they getting, and then how do you know if it's working, right? So there's kind of two sides to that. Upfront, the things that you need to look for, especially in the SEO space, but really any marketing channel. Do they have proven experience working with the type of company that you are? So e-commerce, SaaS, B2B, whatever, local, nationwide, international, that kind of thing. Look for that experience. Do they have case studies that they can share with you, right? Not necessarily like customers that you can talk to, because they're only going to refer you to customers that are super happy and they might not even be like you. So do they have case studies that are relevant to you and to your business? Can they explain things to you, right? Are they clear about what they're doing, right? Are they clear about their process and how they work? Do they have those sorts of things formalized? Because otherwise it's going to be all over the place and results are going to be inconsistent. Those are really the main things to look for up front before hiring. And then of course, when they send you their proposal, are they clear about what it is that you're paying for? So when you're hiring an outsourced provider, yes, you're ultimately hiring them to get you those results, but really you're hiring them to do the things, especially in SEO, content, et cetera, which does take longer to work. And PPC isn't as quick to work as it used to be either. Do they tell you specifically what they are going to do, right? Because I've seen a lot of agency proposals where it's like, yeah, it's going to be $5,000 a month for SEO. What am I getting, right? Am I getting content? Am I getting time? Like how many of these hours are going towards account management, like all that sort of stuff, right? So you might expect one thing for $5,000 and they're really selling you this other thing, but those expectations weren't set. So if you do, here's a pro tip for all of you. If you are outsourcing to an agency or even a consultant, and what are you going to do, right? Or you're outsourcing to them and they give you a number, ask them, what am I getting for this number? Get them to outline it. And there's two things here. Number one, you then have your expectations set and you can hold them accountable and say like, you know what, you didn't do these things. Or, hey, you did all of these things. Great job, right? Like that should be the bar, but like the bar is still incredibly low in our space. But then also it gives you room to negotiate back. Honestly, it gives them room to negotiate back, to negotiate as well. Because they tell you $5,000 for X, Y, and Z every month. And you're like, but we already have Z, right? You can negotiate back. Otherwise you're like, oh, I guess it's a take it or leave it sort of thing, right? So get them to outline that as well. And then, after you've hired them, agree to especially in SEO, I do recommend if they're doing like ongoing services for you, I recommend not going just month to month. And here's why. Don't go month to month because SEO takes a while to start working. If you haven't done SEO before, it takes a while to even set the base. If you have done SEO before, it takes a little while to fix the base. And then, getting into like, if they're creating content for you, like average time from like coming up with the keyword strategy, the content strategy, to getting it produced, to getting it edited, to getting it published, to getting it promoted, and getting it to start driving any traffic, a couple months minimum. So like, if you're just going month to month, I basically tell people that are hiring, hedge against your own worst instincts. Because if you're, you really need this to work, it's going to be tempting to fire them after a month or two if you're not seeing results. But you have to give it time. So I say minimum 3 months and know exactly the things that you're going to get. So if they're doing the things, they're able to deliver on the things that they said that they were going to do. Ideally 6 months, commit to that, but 6 months with a 3-month out. If they're not doing the things, and not based off of results, but if they're not doing the things that they said that they were going to do in those first 3 months, then you have basically a no fault out. And tell them like, yes, I will commit to 6 months, but I need a 3-month out. And that's for both of us. I can get out if things aren't working well, and you can get out if we're not a great client. It's super easy for them to say yes to.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that's how you know. Are they doing the things? And then also tracking your metrics, right? Yeah. Is traffic increasing? Are leads increasing? Or whatever, is revenue increasing for an e-commerce site? That kind of thing.
Yeah. As a follow-up, right? You mentioned that you have no qualms firing clients, and you mentioned, okay, this 3-month out is a really good
Mhm.
idea for both clients and agency providers. This follow-up question is more for the agency owners out there. But on the flip side, what are the red flags that you've gotten a client that just is very parasitic, right? It's always a tax on your mental emotions when you're about to go into a meeting because they're super needy. They ask you for the sun and the moon, and ultimately it's just a disaster waiting to explode. How do you think about the framework for dismissing clients, and B, do you do that on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a yearly basis? I know some agency owners might just like cut off the bottom 10% of their clientele like every year. How do you think about it? And are there specific strategies that you've taken that have made things be less abrasive in terms of a disengagement?
Yeah, good question. And this is one that I still struggle with, and I've just learned a lot of hard lessons in. Being able to do this starts before you even get into the relationship. So first of all, do you have your non-negotiables about what is acceptable and what is not? I read something on LinkedIn the other day. Agency owner said that he fired a client because that client used the slur for mental illness about one of their employees. And he was like, nope, I am not okay with that, and just let them go. I don't know how he did it, but like he let them go, right? Just not okay. So what are your non-negotiables around that? And usually it's like, verbal abuse, like that, that sort of stuff, unprofessionalism, that sort of thing. So that, and then also defining specifically what the client is going to get. This is why you also outline to them what they are going to get, because then you can point back to that and say, like, you're asking us for this thing that is not included in what we talked about. We're doing all these other things that is not included. I am happy to talk about a change order. I'm happy to work up a quote for you on that. But that is not in our current, that's not our current contract, right? So that's another reason why as an agency, you should have the things that you're going to be doing for them, not just the cost. So there's that. And that sets you up for success. And then things to look out for is, as you said, are they being unprofessional? Are they, verbally abusing? Are they constantly pushing and just asking for more? Are they just constantly disgruntled? There are some people out there in the world that are just not going to be happy no matter what. And some people might be willing to work with them. I'm not. And if they're just not happy, right? Or they're approaching me in ways that I'm like, that is just not okay. And it happens a lot in the SEO world, Bernard. Like that is just not okay. I am totally willing to say, like, you know what? I don't think this is a good fit. And so also, if you can, put it into your contract as well, that like, mutual 30-day out. A lot of agencies will tell clients, like, you have to let us know within 30 days, or you have to let us know like at least 30 days out that you're going to stop working with us. So like, by April 15th, if you're going to stop May 15th, right? You should have that as well. You should have the right to do that as well. Like, hey, I don't like, do you feel like this is working? I don't feel like this is working. It feels like, we're like, you're always asking us for more things. And so like, it seems like you're not, happy with what we're doing, or, whatever. If you don't feel like this is working, like, let's just agree that, it just hasn't been a good fit, right? No harm, no like pointing fingers on either side, but it just might not be a good fit. Like, would you agree? Yes. Okay, great. Well, the next 30 days, like, we're going to do these things that we promised you, but we're also going to, make sure you have ownership of your analytics and your search console and your website and all that stuff. So then you can hand that off to another agency when you go, and hire them, when you go and hire another, provider in the future, if you just want to do it by yourself for a while. Just approaching it that way. Not a like, you're fired, sort of thing. Like that just doesn't work. And also, I really can't stress this. Like, I love the respond, don't react thing. Like, never do it in anger, never do it out of frustration. It just never ends well. And if they're coming to you out of anger or frustration, just say nicely, like, hey, Sarah, like, I get that you're frustrated, but like, it seems like you're kind of riled up right now, and I don't know that it's the right time, to discuss this. How about we hop on a call in about 48 hours and we both take the time to think about it? Just doing that is going to be so powerful. It's hard, but like it's
hard.
really powerful. And if they get even angrier because you want to do that, it's a good sign they're not a good fit.
Totally.
Unfortunately. So
Yeah.
does that
Yeah.
help?
It does. It does.
Great.
I know because we came from the SEO world, and there was one specific client that came to mind where we, and this is why it's important to set a very tight scope of work.
Yeah.
Obviously, have your MSA or your service agreement in
Yeah.
check with lawyers and all that stuff. But the guy was basically just completely unsatisfied with what we had clearly spelled out as stage one of the deliverable, and he kept asking for more and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, I'm writing an email, I'm like, hey, this is just like not going to work out. And it was like there were a lot of red flags when I was selling him to begin with, right? It was just like, oh, like, how quickly are we getting results and blah, blah, blah. And of course, as an SEO agency provider, you come up with your defense mechanisms against how quickly are we going to get results, because you don't necessarily want to say anything, but it's a tricky thing to navigate for sure.
It is. And just the last thing I'll say, and I know, thank you everyone for your time. I don't want to take more time than we asked for and than you've given us. But the last thing I will say about that, Bernard, is this is like, once you realize these things, that these things happen, with clients, looking for those things up front, asking them how quickly do you need to see results? What's your experience with SEO? That kind of thing. Show them examples of audits you've done, that first deliverable, right? This is what we're going to deliver for you. Is that in keeping with your expectations, right?
Yeah.
And then you can just point back and be like, well, you said before they're unhappy. Well, you said when I showed you an example of something we did for another client that you're good with it, and now you're not. I'm just curious what changed. But these are all things that, once again, setting yourself up for success with client services, with clients, or with hiring an agency. Being successful happens at the front. Looking for these red flags. And honestly, and being honest with yourself and being honest with them if something doesn't seem right, opening up those conversations, being a professional, asking those questions, and not assuming. We all know what happens when you assume. Like, assumptions kill deals, and hope is not a strategy. I hope it's going to work out. Hope is not a strategy. If you find yourself saying that, slow down, pump the brakes, figure out how you don't have to hope, how you can be more confident.
I love it. I love it. Just the way that I like hear your mental gears turning just reflects, I feel like, just so many years of experience navigating relationships in a professional, respond, don't react kind of manner, right? Where it's so easy for the monkey brain to just kick in and be like, wow, that just like completely pissed me off. And then, and then the next thing you know, you've written an email and it's locked in for good on like the actions that you've done. And then you're like, wow, if I had just slept on it and that's what I've learned for myself as well, is just like, just sleep on it for like 24 hours. And by that time, you'll be in a much better mental state, hopefully, to tackle whatever it is.
Sleep on it, talk to mentors, do some research. But first, just don't do it. Don't react. And the reason why I talk about all this the way that I do is because I've been through it. I know that I can be bad at communication. I know that I can be bad at interpersonal relationships. I know that I can be bad at candid conversation, and candid feedback and all of that. So I've had to work really, really hard to get better at it. And I'm still not great at it, but I've tried really, really hard to get better at it. So the more you can do that, in these relationships as well, whether it's a full-time hire, an outsource hire, working with a co-founder, like these sorts of things, those like interpersonal skills, those soft skills, are going to be the make or break of hiring, and of ultimately seeing success.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, John. It was a true pleasure getting to host you for this particular webinar, and I'll follow up with you shortly after we end this.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Would love to hear from you on the socials. If you have any questions you didn't want to ask here, you want take on your individual situation, etc. I'm happy to engage, happy to help. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.